know about you, but we're coupon people. My wife is especially good at this. It's not that we're cheap, it's just that we're trying to be, we're cheap. And maybe you're the same way. You look at the weekly deals and you plan your calendar and your menu around what's on sale or what's expired. We're coupon people. And I wonder about King David. Would he have been a coupon person? Probably not. I would have to say no, because when King David did something, he went all the way. And he wasn't half-hearted about it. And it's not just because he had the means. I mean, this is what he did, especially at the end of his life. God asked David to get the piece of land that would be used to build the temple. And so he goes to the property owner of that land, and the property owner says to his king, I'm not going to make you pay me for this. You're the king, so here it is. It's yours. I'm just going to give it to you. And David replies with this: I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God that cost me nothing. So as we get near the end of 1 Chronicles, we see this over and over in the life of David. Now, David would not be commissioned to build the temple. That was for his son Solomon. But we continue to see through the life of David that he is involved. You can't keep this guy out of this project as he builds funds and materials for the construction of the temple. And I want us to see in this session how passionate David is, how generous, and how sacrificial David is. Because it's easy to be impressed by this kind of generous sacrifice. So as we look at what the people gave and what King David gave, I want us to see first of all the cost. Let's break it down by the cost. But first of all, let's back up a step to 1 Chronicles chapter 22. In chapter 22, David commissions the dressed stone and the cedar logs and the iron, and he also commissions that 100,000 talents of gold would come in for the building of the temple. 100,000 talents of gold, what is that? Well, one talent is 75 pounds. It's wintertime as we film this, and so I recently put 4 sandbags in the back of my pickup truck. Each sandbag is about 75 pounds, so I have 4 talents of sand in the back of my pickup truck. David wanted 100,000 talents of gold. That's 750,000 pounds of gold. In our day, that would come to about $25 to $30 billion. But it doesn't stop there. David would give toward the temple out of his own treasury, but then also the people would give. I want you to see what David gives. First of all, 3,000 talents of gold and 7,000 talents of silver. The people gave 5,000 talents of gold, 10,000 derricks of gold. We'll come back to that in a moment. 10,000 talents of silver, 18,000 talents of bronze, 100,000 talents of iron, and countless precious stones. I mean, if you took all of the materials, the precious metals, and you added them together, not counting the cedar logs and not counting the precious stones, just the precious metals, and you put those together, that would come to 10,750,208 pounds of precious metals. That's 5,363 tons. And it's just hard to get our brains wrapped around that. So let me see if I can help you a little bit. That's the equivalent of 27 blue whales. It's the equivalent of 447 school buses. It's the equivalent of 893 elephants. And my personal favorite, it's 21,452,000 cheeseburgers. We're just talking about an incredible amount of material that was given by the people for the construction of the temple. But what impresses me is not just the cost. I'm also impressed by the sacrifice. The sacrifice. Now, there are 2 things that we're going to see in our text, 2 demonstrations of sacrifice that I want to highlight. Both of them begin with the letter D. The first one is derrick, which is a measurement, and the second one is desire. Now, a derrick was a measurement, it was a weight. It's about 1/4 of an ounce. It's not very much. And so when we see that the people gave 10,000 derricks of gold, that really only comes to 208 pounds of gold. And that doesn't sound like very much when you compare it to the thousands and tons of gold that was already given. And I just wonder, why did the writer of 1 Chronicles put that in there? I don't know exactly, but I think that the reason that the writer put it in there is to show that everyone was involved in making a sacrifice. And if all you could give was 1 derrick, then it's worth making the sacrifice. You don't have to be filthy, stinking rich to make a sacrifice. And we know that. Even Jesus illustrated this as he went to the temple and he got to see people giving their offerings, and he saw a rich Pharisee putting in his offering, and he got to see a poor widow giving her offering, and he celebrated and congratulated the widow because of her sacrifice, even though it really wasn't worth very much, but she gave all she had. In fact, as you read the text, you're going to want to highlight every time the word all is used. It's used a lot when talking about the sacrifice of the people. And then also the second sacrifice is that of King David, and that was his desire. David sacrificed his desire. He wanted to build the temple. He wanted that to be his job, but it was Solomon's job, and he willingly gave that up to his son. And I just wonder, how many of us have to give up what we want to serve the next generation? And it may even be things that we never even see for ourselves. You see, the nature of sacrifice is to give beyond yourself, to give more than what's needed and more than what you feel like you're able to give. To sacrifice can be defined as the surrender or the destruction of something of great value in order to gain something else. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's Jesus. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 14 says, "With one sacrifice, Christ made his people perfect forever. They are the ones who are being made holy." You see, he sacrificed his all to gain our holiness, our righteousness. May we be people who generously sacrifice. May we be people who give beyond ourselves.